Hello everyone, and this is going to be an update video on this this major winter storm uh, that will be happening in the next few days here. Uh, Models, since my last video, models have actually, I feel like they have been sort of battling each other a little bit more than they have been, maybe 5 or 6 days, away, which I guess sort of makes sense in a way, but we do have I think, a general consensus of a northern trend. This is going to take a more northern track than initially expected. Just for an example, and I'll explain what this map is in a second, but I thought the low would sort of form, you know, across Louisiana, Mississippi, and kind of stick in the deep south and kind of, you know, move off through the Carolinas and whatnot, bringing big snow across like Memphis, Nashville, like Smoky uh, Mountains, and even northern North Carolina. But this northern track, most likely, it's going to sort of form Louisiana still, but kind of move off to the northeast or northern Alabama through the Smoky Mountains and through like Virginia. So, um, that more northern track is going to have a major role on where the snow is being placed and where the ice is going to be placed. And I will say that the more northern track has favored more heavier snow across the Ohio Valley. Um, Although, there are some models that really sort of say different or have even a warm wedge sort of eating at totals, which I will explain here soon. But yeah, in general, the models have shifted north. Still some uncertainty on certain parts of the system, but we are ironing out things fairly quickly, I feel like. So hopefully by tonight, we really have a better sort of handle on totals and where these totals will be at. But we do have a better handle than we did a few days ago. So this is a overall winter storm impacts map. Um, from days 1 to 3. So this is taking pretty much through Sunday morning. It won't really have a lot of like the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast sort of fully colored in. This will probably be all red across the central West Virginia, northern Ohio, northeastern Kentucky, major impacts. Wouldn't be shocked, but we'll be focusing on sort of the Mid-South region for this graphic here. And yeah, we can pretty much see major impacts from Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Wichita, Memphis, Shreveport, Fayetteville, Bowling Green, Louisville, Nashville. Major impacts are going to occur with this, causing several days of disruptions to daily life, travel disruptions for several days, probably impossible travel for at least a few days as well. And we even have a little swath of extreme impacts, and I think we're gonna have a lot of ice across, mainly this red section here from Shreveport, northeastern Texas through Memphis, south of Nashville, especially south of the Memphis metro. But this purple area here, I think, will have the greatest ice, and we could see, accumulations over half an inch easily in this purple area. So keeping an eye on that. This red up here is going to be more for the snow impact. So Bowling Green, Louisville, Fayetteville. This probably could be pushed up a little bit north. The red here, maybe, for Springville, more of southern Illinois, Indiana, and then, into more southern Ohio, West Virginia, as I mentioned. Um, but here, this is our ice accumulation impacts, and again, we can see this red, that first, blob of red was going to be for this ice, and we can see the purple there for communities like Oxford, Tupelo, and Greenwood, and even Greenville, further south, could could potentially see some significant icing. But I even could see some significant icing, some southern Arkansas, sort of northern Louisiana as well. So if you're in these areas as well, just please be aware of significant icing. Even Florence, Alabama, I forgot to mention that. Um, yeah, just be aware. Get prepared. Well, you should be already prepared, but continue to prepare if you're still working on that. Um, and we can see more uncertainty in ice sort of toward the Memphis, Jackson, and Nashville area in Little Rock. It's a bit more uncertain, but we do have the the chances there for some decent icing. Here's the snowfall impacts, and we can again this northern red was for the snow. Our major impacts can be seen here, and should be expanding across West Virginia, southern Ohio, and sort of northeastern Kentucky, and probably even most of Pennsylvania here in the next day or so. I want to show this map here. This is the probability of 4 inches or less of snow. So probability of seeing 4 inches max. And 70 to 100% is in this red. And yeah, from the Texas Panhandle, really the Four Corners region, all the way up through the Mid-Atlantic. Um, 4 inches is very likely. And we can see um, this red really uh, stretch all the way through much of the Ohio Valley. So this is going to be a very impactful storm. 4 inches is enough to sort of cause issues and whatnot. Let's check 8 inches. The probability of 8 inches, 40 to 70% is the green, and then 70 to 100 is the red. And we can see the green really start to fill in across southern Illinois and Indiana, Ohio, northern Kentucky, um, southern Pennsylvania, much of West Virginia, except for this, warm wedge area, which I will explain here very shortly. This could eat at some totals for Charleston and Beckley. Um, maybe a little bit further north into like the Sutton sort of area, but Clay County, West Virginia. But we'll see. I'll talk about that here soon. But probability of 8 inches, 40 to 70%. That's a good signal for day 3 probabilities. I expect this to sort of fill it in and maybe even expand a little bit, but maybe even some red to be added in. Who knows? But 8 inches seems fairly likely across the Ohio Valley, and the probability of 12 it exists 10 to 40% in this blue. Cincinnati, Columbus, sort of Louisville, Pittsburgh, Morgantown, West Virginia, Wheeling, West Virginia. So those cities need to sort of just have in the back of their mind that a foot of snow is possible. So let's move on through you know sort of upper levels here again. I explained this quite a bit in the last video, but we're gonna start here. This is today, and we can see our main sort of injection here. We had the initial upper level low a few days ago, sort of bring in some cooler air across sort of the Northeast and Midwest already, but this next injection here, um, zoomed in here across, north of Minnesota here, it's going to bring another sort of shot of cooler air, but what we really need to focus on is this energy right here. Give me one second. All right, sorry about that. I had to get my pen, this little pen tool out, but we have to focus on this. Well, I apologize. The pen tool is not working. Some technical difficulties, but let's move on here. And This is going to be this is going to be tonight, Thursday evening through tonight. Um, well, this evening through tonight, excuse me. But we have the second injection here across the northern Great Lakes, and we have this energy here. This energy moving, out of Alberta, Canada, into sort of the northern plains, Montana to North Dakota, Minnesota. This is our key piece. This is what's driving our low pressure to have more of a northern track. Why? Well, it's injecting a bit faster than what we originally thought. If this was a bit further, further west and more north, and it was not as fast, moving southeastward, this it would allow sort of our orientation of our height lines here, these black sort of parallel lines, to sort of see how these height lines are sort of moving parallel west to east here. That would allow this low pressure to sort of form in the deep south and sort of move kind of more in an easterly direction instead of a northeasterly direction. And this second, injection, this polar air behind the second injection is ejecting a little bit faster than originally thought. So this is this evening, and if we move on through Friday morning around 7 in the morning, um, it's not hasn't moved too much, but it is starting to really work its way southward here. Our main sort of energy, main bulk of energy now is about to sort of approach into Montana and North Dakota, and it's just streamlining more of this polar air and polar energy to the Midwest and the Ohio Valley and the Northeast, allowing sort of more cooler air to sort of dip southward. So this is Friday morning. As we move on, just keep an eye on this. Look how it's sort of moving southward. But let's look here. This is Friday afternoon. This is our Baja California low pressure I've been talking about. This is going to be streamlining energy and moisture into the deep south and the mid south and the Ohio Valley, allowing for the storm to really have an impressive precipitation shield with it and have impressive precipitation rates. We can see sleet rates extremely high. We can see accumulations of sleet up to 5 inches possible in some areas. Um, you know, will it be that much? That'll be ironed out shortly with the mixing whatnot. The sooner we get closer to the event, the mixing issues sort of can iron out as well. So we'll see if that will be the case. But this is going to be the main provider for that moisture and that energy. Although we do have this polar energy as well, so we have two energy sources combining and making a major impactful snowstorm and ice storm across the sort of south and mid-Atlantic regions, Ohio Valley. So Friday afternoon, we see our Baja low sort of starting to streamline this energy. You see these sort of blobs of like green, yellow, and orange here. This tells me that energy is being sort of funneled into our plains in our mid-south region. And if I sort of back it up here, just watch how this sort of fills in across the four corners and sort of the southern plains. This is Friday morning. If we move on through Friday evening, look how much it fills. Look how much of that energy is starting to really funnel into the plains. And this is going to be meeting and sort of phasing in with this polar air. We have our polar air energy now in the Dakotas, Montana. It's well into the states. Still, we have still quite a bit of energy, through Canada as well. But this is going to phase in through the morning, overnight, Friday night into the morning Saturday, and Saturday morning here we have our main, polar energy still across the northern portions of the states, and this is going to allow this cooler air to really push southward into the mid-south, Oklahoma, like Oklahoma City, Dallas, Texas, Little Rock, Memphis. That polar air is going to start crashing down. Meanwhile, our Baja Low is still streamlining this energy and this moisture. And then by Saturday evening, um, we're experiencing a sort of the main phasing phase at this point, where the phasing has sort of reached extremely impactful um, winter weather. The phasing has sort of reached you know the climax. I guess you could say. And yeah, we see plenty of energy across the Ohio Valley, the Mid South, and the Midwest. So mixing that in with this deep polar air, yeah. And how I mentioned these height lines. Remember how they were more sort of west to east just a day ago. Um, I can back it up here. See how they were more west to east. Just Friday evening. These black lines and how they're parallel west to east. Well, if we move forward into a Saturday evening, well, look at that. Now they're paralleled sort of southwest to northeast, and this is going to allow that low pressure to track more northerly. This is why we've had that sort of more northerly shift and trend within the ensembles and the operational models. Um, so what that tells me is that the northerly shift is sort of, I have higher confidence in it now. And as we move on through Sunday morning here, yeah, it's going to be a full-on sort of snowstorm ongoing across the Ohio Valley, ice storm ongoing across the south. So big time weather. Well, let's look at the GFS real quick. That was the Euro operational. Let's look at the GFS. The GFS has been sort of an outlier with the phasing and with how far south it's been. It has corrected some, but it hasn't, it's still a little off. Let's just look at it real quickly. I'm not going to pay too much attention. This is Friday evening. We have our main sort of injection of polar air. Comparing that to sort of the Euro here. The GFS is a bit further south with this injection, and then our Baja Low is pretty much in the same location. And as we move on through sort of Saturday afternoon, that further south injection that we saw, it brings that polar air a bit more south. That's why we're seeing the GFS have more of the southern solution of more snow across sort of the mid-south and lower Ohio Valley, mid-Atlantic area. But it does, the Euro and GFS are handling this Baja sort of moisture and energy objection pretty well. However, the phasing is just different with how far south um, that Arctic area is. So the GFS is a bit of an outlier. This is a Euro ensemble, so this is taking 50 different members, combining them into one output here. And this really gives us a good idea of what's kind of happening. This is Friday morning. Here's our second injection here across the northern Great Lakes. This is our upper level low, bringing and helping this polar air shortwave to inject southward or southeastward. We have our Baja low. Looks pretty similar. As we move on through Friday night, though, the consensus is that a lot of this polar energy will be in Canada still, but we will have enough sort of southward across the Dakotas, Minnesota, Montana to sort of help push that polar air, south into the mid-south, southern plains, Ohio Valley. And then we have our Baja still. Again, a lot of agreement with this low and how it phases in with the cold. And we can sort of see this here Saturday night, Sunday morning. This is not as a higher resolution, So we're not seeing a lot of that, spotty vorticity across the mid-south, but we can see it sort of phasing in, and we can see the orientation of our height lines, southwest to northeast here across Houston and like Atlanta, Georgia. So our low pressure is, going to be moving parallel with these height lines. Um, so that's very important, very key to understand the flow of our system, and our upper level flow, because that's going to be likely where our low pressure will be going as well. So it's very important to understand that if these lines are going to be parallel, southwest to northeast, then that tells me that the low pressure is going to have a more of a northeasterly trajectory than that sort of west to east parallel solution that was 3 or 4 days ago. So overall, the phasing has come into better agreement. We have the Baja Low is, I would say, highly confident in sort of what it's going to do. This polar air, if it can inject a little bit slower and a little bit more south, um, and sort of phase in a little bit more slowly with this Baja energy, then you may have more of a southern solution, more snow in the mid-south, sort of lower Ohio Valley and mid-Atlantic, but it seems kind of unlikely at this point. I'm going to show some snowfall totals to just show a general idea of what to expect, and then I'll show my sort of first call for snowfall for the Ohio Valley. So this is the Euro ensemble from overnight, and yeah, your target zone is going to be really the Mid-Atlantic here, like Washington D.C., Martinsburg, West Virginia, Oakland, Maryland, Morgantown, West Virginia, Pittsburgh State College, and then we have this sort of swath, um, which I think could give or take, it could be north, I think, another 100 or so miles of this sort of heavier, 8 to 12 inch swath. But 8 to 12 inches is possible for Parkersburg, Huntington, Lexington, Louisville, Cincinnati, Paducah, Kentucky, Evansville. Um, so that's a lot of snow, and the snow rate. This is 10 to 1 ratio. Um, the snow ratio is going to be more closer to like 15 to 1. Um, so really, you can add like an extra inch or two or three to these amounts. So over a foot of snow is, I think, very possible across southern Ohio, southern Indiana, northern Kentucky, west central, um, West Virginia, including like Huntington and Parkersburg. A foot of snow is easily possible, if you get the right track, which we seem to have more confidence on. This is just one model, though. And again, we don't take model runs as set in stone, sort of, to heart. We don't take it to heart. We use it as a tool. This tells me that we have a bullseye of heavy snow really across the central Ohio Valley. Um, but let's check the GFS ensemble. Um, let's check what this shows through Wednesday morning. And here's our Euro. Here is our GFS. Euro, GFS, Euro, GFS. The Euro is a bit heavier with the snow, a bit more, has a bit more moisture. It's a bit overloaded, one could say, across sort of the Missouri Boot Hill region, southern Illinois, western Kentucky, southern Missouri. The GFS has, a little bit of that hot spot across central um, Oklahoma, northern Arizona, or Arkansas, excuse me. Almost forgot, almost forgot the state there for a second, but yeah. Anyways, that hot spot there across the Southern Plains, sort of in the Ozarks, and then we have these hot spot across the Mid Atlantic in the Ohio Valley. Um, but the overall general same idea, the same locations having the same um, significant sort of impacts. So what this tells me is the Euro and GFS are in a line together. The ensemble models, I should say, are in a line when it comes to um, the area of higher snowfall. And we can see that of central northern Kentucky, southern Ohio, Indiana, central West Virginia, northern West Virginia, um, and then the Missouri Boot Hill region, excuse me. And we can see this here. Let's look at the Euro AI ensemble. This is different from the last two. This is an AI sort of um, newer model in AI, and yeah, it's an absolute disaster. This is we I wanted to show this to show you and to illustrate how um, different the models are. Even with this being 2 to 3 days away, the Euro AI, this is not going to happen. It's showing 2 feet of snow across portions of Tennessee and Kentucky where they may only get like 6 inches max. But no, this is not going to happen. Let's kind of go back to reality here, and let's show a more northern solution of the Euro AI. This is the deterministic model. Sorry, and this has this further north solution: Indianapolis, Columbus, St. Louis, even. Um, 6 to 10 inches of snow. Um, and then we can see sort of warm wedge here across West Virginia in the coal fields. So something to sort of pay attention to. Um, I do want to show the Euro operational, excuse me, the Euro operational snowfall just real quick. So the 12Z is coming out soon. So I want to talk about this warm wedge. This is the Euro operational run. Um, it's a pretty reliable run, and again, it's showing this bullseye across the same places I've mentioned. But one thing I do want to mention is the warm wedge. And if you live in the West Virginia, Kentucky, Smoky Mountains, you will know that the warm wedge or um, warm air advection can sort of ruin snowstorms. And this happens if your low pressure takes more of the southwesterly to northeasterly track, and if it sort of goes over the mid-south and the Smoky Mountains. So this low pressure is going to be forming over, Louisiana, and it's going to be moving sort of across, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee into the Smoky Mountains. It's going to be moving, southwest to northeast, as I've mentioned. Well, this helps this warm air advection sort of funnel into these mountains, and we often get this warm wedge. So like Charleston, Beckley, Sutton, West Virginia, um, you know, most of southern West Virginia as well, but the coalfield, Smoky Mountains, this warm air advection or the warm wedge really can damper snowfall totals. And sometimes this warm wedge can be closer to the Ohio River. Sometimes it's like this, where it's closer to the Appalachian Mountains. It just depends on the orientation of the low pressure track. In this case, it's more, it's not as amplified. It isn't more south to north. It's more sort of west to east still, but it does have this angle. We can see the snow line, how it has that angle. That's a good indicator of how our low pressure is going to sort of track in what direction, what orientation. So, again, the warm wedge. It's very possible that places like Charleston and Beckley, but especially Beckley, can only have a few inches of snow. Charleston could only have maybe 6 to 8 inches of snow, while Huntington could have a foot. So it can mean a difference of several inches of snow, and needs to be paid attention to. Um, and often in this warm month, we do have more freezing rain that likes to sort of occur. And I will go over the freezing rain threats um, actually right now. But um, real quickly, this is the national blended model run. This is, takes all the models and sort of precisely averages them out. It does have its flaws sometimes, but it does give the forecaster a good idea of where the highlighted sort of target zones will be of accumulations. And this tells me here that the same locations I've mentioned, North or Southern Ohio, Indiana, Northern Kentucky, Central Kentucky, West Central West Virginia, Northern West Virginia, especially that Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia and sort of Central PA could be the target zone for heavy, heavy snow. But the Missouri Boot Hill region into the Central Plains, South Central Plains, I should say. This is going to be our highlighted zone for, bigger snows. But especially across the Ohio Valley here, Lexington, Cincinnati, Columbus, Huntington, West Virginia, Parkersburg, Pittsburgh, even Louisville, need to pay attention to higher totals possible. This is, again, a national blended model, so this is taking a lot of models and blending them together. So to have this high of totals is a good sort of indicator that heavy, heavy snow is possible and very likely at this point. But let's look at our ice accumulation. Um, again, this is the national blended model, and I'll show a few more model runs to sort of give us a better idea. Um, but we can see, anything really over half an inch is considered ice storm potential. And we see a big swath of around a half an inch northeast Texas, southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, pretty much of northwestern Mississippi, northern Mississippi. Um, Ice storm potential is high. Yeah, and anytime you get over half an inch, especially in the deep south and far south, you're going to have major issues. But this is just problem area number one. Even Dallas can see over a quarter of an inch of ice, and that would cause major issues as well. Um, and that's one thing I want to get straight here. Even a tenth of an inch of ice, so even like this sort of second shade of pink, point 0.12 as we can see here, point 0.13. Even a tenth of an inch of ice can cause major driving issues, and especially down south. If you get to a quarter of an inch of ice, like Dallas here, Dallas is going to be in this just above a quarter of an inch. You start to have, driving's pretty much impossible. You start to have some minor tree damage and and whatnot. You get to half an inch, yeah, you're getting into infrastructure, tree damage, and whatnot. So please take this serious. And our second area is going to be across the sort of the Piedmont, the Mid-Atlantic region, northern Georgia, all the way up through the Mid-Atlantic. Even in this warm wedge area, like I had mentioned just a few minutes ago, across Beckley, Charleston, quarter of an inch is likely. It is possible, especially if the warm wedge solution really does sort of happen. That's enough ice to sort of, with the snow that you'll have, especially on the back end. They can cause some issues, but ice storm potential, especially across central NC through southern Virginia and even upstate South Carolina. You may as well throw them in there, including Charlotte. Needs to really pay attention to this. Central Tennessee as well, including Memphis, Central Tennessee. Again, quarter of an inch of ice is going to cause major issues. So, in Little Rock, including Little Rock as well. So, this is just one model. Let's look at Um, let's look at the euro here. And the euro is a bit further north with our freezing rain, but the same general locations. Northwestern Mississippi, southern central and south central Arkansas, northern Louisiana, northeastern Texas, even southeastern Oklahoma. Major icing possible. Will it be this much ice? Probably not, no. But closer to an inch is, I would say, likely, or more likely than these amounts here. But and then we have our second area across northern Georgia, the um, upstate South Carolina, the Smoky Mountains. Big difference though, comparing the Euro to the national base model. The national base had more icing across central NC, southern Virginia. That's a big difference from half inch to a quarter inch here. So you need to pay attention across North Carolina, southern Virginia. I would say it's pretty safe across Charlotte, upstate South Carolina, northern Georgia. That quarter to an inch, half inch of ice is very possible. But this is just one run. Let's look at an ensemble run here. This is the Euro ensemble showing significant icing across southern Arkansas, northwestern Mississippi. I mean, the same areas we can see here. And then our second sort of ice zone across central NC, upstate South Carolina, and has a bit more ice across central NC, the ensemble. So safe to say central NC can see up to half inch of ice. Um, and that would be significant. So again, you can see the warm wedge potential here with the icing sort of creeping into Beckley, Charleston, and up to Sutton, a quarter of an inch as well. But we can see the complexity of the system. Um, a 50-mile difference in low pressure track is going to make a major difference in a lot of areas. It can make a difference from seeing almost an inch of ice to closer to half an inch. It can make a difference from 4 to 8 inches of snow to like you know closer to 8 to 10 inches. So like it makes a difference. So the next day or so, we'll hopefully have a more ironed out sort of solution. We've already seen that northern trend kind of solidify, so more than likely we'll have that happen. But this is a rough map. I made this fairly quickly. Um, yeah, it's not my best work, but this is what I'm thinking for now. I think I could be a little bit too bullish up north here across like Illinois, northern Illinois, and northern Indiana. I'm going with like 3 to 5 inches. Um, some of these places could easily just see maybe 2 inches, 3 inches, not closer to five. I do like the 4 to 8, sort of in central Indiana, south central Illinois. 8 might be pushing it, but I think 4 to 6 is definitely possible. Like Indianapolis, definitely south of Springfield, but yeah. But 6 to 10 inches, I think, could be possible for like the Columbus. Maybe not as far north as like sort of across the west central Ohio, and then sort of central Indiana. But overall, closer to this blue dashed line, you'll have closer to 8 to 10 inches. Closer to the red line, closer to like 6 inches, 4 to 6. So, but in general, 6 to 10 inches. Indianapolis, sort of on that line of probably around 4 to 6 inches. I'm leaning towards 6 to 10 for the Missouri Boot Hill region. Anywhere in this blue dashed line could see significant snow. 12 plus inches in the northern mid Atlantic, Washington, D.C. region. This could get pushed up a little north. I wouldn't be shocked if, this green 6 to 10 sort of gets pushed up through here. Um, this is sort of a big question mark area across the Mid-Atlantic, sort of south of DC. You could easily get around a foot of snow or more, or maybe just closer to 5 to 8 inches. It really just depends on the track. But right now I'm leaning towards around a foot or more. Central PA, a foot or more. Maybe a little less, a few inches less in some areas, but around a foot for most. Um, and then across like sort of southern Ohio, southern Indiana, northern Kentucky, western West Virginia, northern West Virginia, 8 to 12 inches is very likely. I could see a foot of snow being pretty common across this area. I might even have to up my snow totals to like 10 to 14 across this area, but we'll see. And then I'm taking in account of that warm wedge. I think Charleston will be in the 6 to 10 range, closer to that 6 to 8 inch range. Beckley's going to be in that 3 to 6 range, and I might even drop that to 2 to 4 inches. And then sort of central Tennessee down through like Memphis, 2 to 6 inches seems pretty likely. Depending on track, you may see a few inches more. But this is my general call. This will probably change, but I really like this so far. Um, Again, biggest question marks, Mid-Atlantic, and sort of maybe how bullish I am up north. But I'll iron this out in the next day or so and sort of post it on my social medias. So make sure you're following me on my Twitter. But hope everyone stays safe. I may have another video just sort of going over snow and ice totals again tomorrow or tomorrow night. So just stay tuned for that. That'll be a lot shorter of a video. But please stay safe. Please get prepared if you're not. This is going to be a major winter storm, and the pattern seems to favor colder weather, wetter weather in the next week or two. So we may have more shots of winter weather. So please, you know, make sure you stay safe through this and check on your neighbors and loved ones as well. But until then, I will catch you guys later. And any questions, leave them down below. Thank you.